advisable for us to adopt the decision first. So this morning, I'm not going to do the contestation mechanism. I'm not starting with it. We are going to the decision. So I would like to invite you, please, to move to the decision, where I want to start adoptions paragraph by paragraph. And I would really urge you, because I have been very flexible for the contestation mechanism, because I know that it is the most difficult section of our work. I have let you make statements again as if the debate had not happened, but the debate had happened. And from now on, what I would like you to do is to focus on the text. And when you have something to say, you don't agree with the text, I would like you to present your amendments to the text so that we are efficient and we can move rapidly. So let us start with the first paragraph. Here we have received an amendment from Sweden, and obviously the Swedish amendment is more complete. My recommendation is that we adopt the Swedish amendment that includes all the decisions related to the issue rather than the original that is incomplete. Would like to know whether anybody has any objection. Yes, of course, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just it's not, of course, an objection, just a technical remark that we are going to adapt this text to the standard text, because whenever we cite a decision, we have to add also where it was taken, so on. So don't worry about this kind of technical issues. We will clean it up later on. Thank you.
Thank you for this precision. I come back to this paragraph. Do you agree that we adopt the Swedish amendment? I see no objection. Adopted. The following one, considering the fruitful debates held during the meetings of the open-ended working group established at its 44th session to broaden the scope of the reflection on sites of memories of recent conflict. Here we have a slight amendment by Norway that completes actually the title. And in fact, we have to make these corrections in all following paragraphs because we have to put the whole title. So I suggest that we adopt it. It's really an amendment of form, not of substance. Anybody disagrees? I see none. Adopted. Following amendment. This is the amendment where we decide to remove the blanket ban. I know that there are other proposals, of drafting to this amendment, all saying almost the same thing. And having carefully looked at all of them, I think that Norway's paragraph summarizes all the other proposals. Please look at it and tell me whether this is something you can, Austria?
Yes, thank you. Good morning. I would totally agree with you. I feel that this is exactly what we said. In particular, it even repeats the wording of many of us in the discussions. I have no strong feelings. I think the important thing is that we lift the ban or the moratorium or however we call, and the files in the pipeline can go forward. Thank you.
Could you please scroll up the French a little so that everybody can see? Down, up, down, I don't know. Can we have the Norwegian? Because no, but that's not it. That's not what. Can you go back, please, to the paragraph where the original decides to remove any blanket ban, and then, sorry, it's
Madam Chair, only the French one, if you go step by step, then you have to lift the moratorium before you apply the procedure for evaluation.
we can't hear you. We can't hear you, madam.
I'm sorry, I think that procedurally, the French paragraph, first of all, decides to lift the moratorium. And then you come to all the other paragraphs which apply the procedure, whichever selection you make.
So would you propose that we start the paragraph by saying decides to lift the moratorium? And then
you work on whichever text to apply the procedure for evaluation. So this could be
could you add,
Lithuanian.
could you draft the first sentence of the Norwegian amendment, please, in order to do so? Could you?
Okay.
Quel est le problème avec mes
Yes,
lettres,
you could simply, yes, decides to lift the moratorium.
We need to see the Norwegian amendment.
And further, that sites of recent conflict may be evaluated.
Okay. Fine, thank you. Thank you for this proposal. Now, dear colleagues, the paragraph is on the screen. I'll give you time to look at it. It's an important paragraph. Austria, you have the floor, madam.
Yes, just an editorial remark. We could just simplify it because otherwise we are a bit repeating ourselves. Where are we? Decides to lift the moratorium and further decides that such nominations will be evaluated on a case-by-case basis according to their own merits.
Okay,
So
can you
otherwise
read it again slowly, and please, could you please put it on the screen? Decides to lift the moratorium and further decides that such,
or it could just, I don't know, whatever you feel, and that such nominations, and you just delete exactly, will be evaluated. I think we don't even need to say and further decides, as you wish. You could just say decides to lift the moratorium, such nominations will be evaluated on a case by case. Could be as simple as that.
but such nominations, which nominations? If we delete everything, it doesn't make sense. What nominations are we talking about?
Yes, indeed, you're right. Well, then you just say nominations relating to sites of memory of recent conflict will be evaluated on a case-by-case basis.
I have a request for the floor from Poland. You have the floor, madam.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. And just maybe to help when it comes to the editorial point of view, I fully agree that we need to put a subject of this tasking of the decision. So in this sense, it would go that this and further decides that the nomination of the sites of memory associated to the recent conflict, so exactly the term that was used from the decision, as the Secretariat mentioned, that the wording and the terms have to be specific, may be evaluated for inscription on the World Heritage List.
Thank you.
Full stop. Thank you.
Thank you. So, yes, France, you have the floor, madam.
Merci beaucoup. Également,
thank you very much. Also, as to help with the edition, I think it's important to explain why we lift the moratorium. So we should say leave the moratorium on the evaluation process for conflict sites or memory sites, and then we can add.
I think
that
think that
okay.
the sites of memory should be linked to the lifting of the moratorium rather than to the evaluation later. Decides to lift the moratorium on the evaluation of sites of memory linked, associated with recent conflict, and further decides that such nominations may be evaluated for inscription on the World Heritage List on a case-by-case basis, if you wish. Poland, you have the floor.
Just for the English, and further decides that that nominations of such sites because otherwise it's once the evaluation of such sites, and then when it comes to the future nominations, it has to be nominations of such sites.
Okay, thank you. Can we, yes, France, before we can, no, c'est fini?
Yeah.
I have a request from Sweden online. You have the floor. Sweden?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry, my computer is not with me. We had an amendment. This is not on this para, but we had an amendment also after our first amendment. So if we could just go back to that after we've finished this one.
Could you please let me finish this paragraph, and I'll give you the
Of course.
floor again, and you will explain what you wish. I would like this paragraph to be cleaned first, and in the meantime, I'll give the floor to Lithuania. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are fine with the amendment the way it is going because it incorporates what we wanted, what we wish to see. I'm just worried about the on a case-by-case basis. It's disappearing, reappearing. So I'm just want it to be in the barrel. I want it to be.
Nobody wanted it out so far,
Okay.
so it's in. So I'll give a few seconds to cleaning up the text, and then I will down this paragraph. Can you show us the paragraph, please? Further decides that the nominations may be evaluated for inscription on a case-by-case basis. Okay, the paragraph is on the screen. Could you please tell me whether you agree with it in French and English? Norway, you have the floor, madam.
Thank you and good morning to you all. Just a technicality, the dot after World Heritage List and before on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, I see no other request for the floor. I consider that this paragraph is adopted. Can we, Sweden, would you wish to take the floor and tell us what you wanted to say before?
Yes, please. And so
You have the floor, madam.
excuses. Thank you, Madam Chair, and excuse me for having interrupted the previous para. Yes, we had sent in an amendment, and now I lost it on my screen. It was also recalling.
It's a new amendment?
Yes, it was a new amendment, and it was a new second amendment. So it was after the recalling the decision 42 and then as a new para 2, we had sent in a sentence saying also recalling the outcomes of the reflection process presented to its 44th session, FTSU/Online 2021.
Well, I don't have it in my text. Can we put it? I don't know why I don't have it in my text. Can you please repeat your amendment, Sweden?
Of course, it was also recalling the outcomes of the reflection process presented to its 44th session, in parentheses, FTSU/Online 2021.
This is new. Yes, we don't have it. Nobody has it. It's not just my text, it's everybody's text. We don't have it. So
Well,
please.
Yeah, it was in
We must have
the
skipped
text we
it,
sent
sorry.
in.
Yes, okay. All right, there's a new paragraph by Sweden.
Madam Chair, I just wonder whether Sweden meant for it to appear here as opposed to further up under the original decisions. That's just a
Wait
question.
until I give you the
Oh,
floor.
sorry.
Hold on 1 second. When it's done in English, I'll give you the floor and you will tell us. Before we speak about where to put it, please, I would like to deal with the content. I mean, the place is less important. So this is a new paragraph by Sweden. Would like to hear from you whether this is acceptable. Yes, Ambassador, South Africa, you have the floor.
Before I comment, it's a question to Sweden. Which outcomes are you referring to? Are you referring to the outcome of the expert meeting or meeting of experts? I just want clarity from Sweden. Which outcomes are they?
Thank you. Sweden, could you please clarify?
Yes, thank you very much. And yes, the ambassador from South Africa is absolutely right. It's a reflection process, it should say. Yeah, it says so now.
So you're referring to the outcomes of all meetings?
No, the one that made us create this working group. So that we had a reflection process with the advisory bodies that were presented to the committee, and after that, the member states decided that it would also be useful to have the member states' inputs, and this is why we're here in this working group. So we just want to show in this decision that it's been a critical process. We've had many reflections and discussions. So that's the reason for us wanting to put it here. Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Norway, and then I'll give the floor back to South Africa. Norway, Madam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to ask whether we can consider that's covered in the paragraph starting with considering the fruitful debates and etc. Thank you.
Thank you, Norway. That's what I would have thought, actually. But I'm in your hands, as always. South Africa, you have the floor, sir.
Indeed, we're comfortable with the proposal by Norway. I think it covers it well. Thanks.
Dear colleague from Sweden, would this satisfy you?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So then we discard this amendment. Yes, and we move to our following amendment in our text. Which is further recalling that the convention is not intended to ensure the protection of all properties of great interest, importance of value, but only for a select list of the most outstanding of these from an international viewpoint. Recognizes that not all sites associated with recent conflicts could satisfy the threshold of the outstanding universal value. We received several amendments from Australia, France, Lithuania, Norway, Sweden, Uganda. Uganda made I think, very constructive proposals, because he is asking to separate this paragraph in 2 paragraphs. I think for the sake of clarity, this is a good proposal. But now on the content, I let you look at them, but I will start giving the floor. But from what I see, the Swedish proposal is the most complete, because they are all very similar in the end in the drafting. The Swedish one is the most complete if we add to it the Australian and Norwegian amendments of speaking about the word heritage list instead of the convention. And I do think that, it makes sense. So this is my proposal to you, is that we work on the Swedish amendment and that we incorporate World Heritage List instead of speaking about the convention. And if you agree with the content, I think to separate the paragraph in 2 as proposed, as you will see in the amendments in the text we sent you, proposed by Uganda. I have a request for the floor from Australia, to be followed by France. Australia online, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to just firstly to say, I support your proposal for the amendments to this paragraph. Our amendments were merely to try and clarify, and I think the solution you have proposed is an elegant one. But Australia did submit another request and I think if you scroll up, to reverse the order of a paragraph. So that one beginning further recalling the convention, we suggested that should come before the paragraph that we have just agreed, the Norwegian paragraph. It's a minor issue, Madam Chair, but it was just to reflect that, because I think it will help the flow of the decision. So thank you.
Thank you. I'll ask the Secretariat to take note of all the suggestions of switching the order of paragraphs. I think we will see what is the best flow, but really what matters now is that we adopt the substance. La France, vous avez la parole, Madame.
France, you have the floor. Thank you, Madam Chair. We fully support the proposal to merge these amendments. However, we also wish to move this paragraph to the second paragraph. So after recalling the decisions, to recall the general framework. That's what we usually do. Very well. The Secretariat has taken due note of your request to change the order of these paragraphs. Now, coming back to the substance of these paragraphs, do you agree with what is displayed on the screen? And would you agree to separating it into 2 parts as proposed by Uganda?
I see no request from the floor online. So in the room, anyone wishes to say anything? Yes, Turkey, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Maybe we could say instead of international viewpoint, universal viewpoint.
Yes.
Universal is more common since it's the world
And
heritage.
it fits more our language of the convention. Thank you for this very good proposal. Can we do that, please? Okay, thank you. Anything else? Could we clean up the paragraph, please? Okay, could we? Yes, France, please, you have the floor, madam.
Merci beaucoup. Je veux pas non plus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now, I don't want to reopen discussions, but when it comes to sites associated with recent conflicts, given the definitions we had adopted, we had distinguished sites associated with recent conflict and sites of memory. So perhaps throughout the decision, we should state, recognizing that all sites associated with recent conflicts or sites of memory, because we had made that distinction in the definition. And these guiding principles should apply to both types of site. If you look at the definition in paragraph 2, which has already been adopted several sessions ago, you can see that there is a distinction. Now, I'll just read it out because I think it makes it more possible to implement these guiding principles. We say that the sites are specific sites that a nation and its people or communities want to remember, whereas sites associated with recent conflicts are specific sites with material evidence. So there are two types of site here.
I'll take some interventions from the floor. I have 2 requests. Barbados to be followed by Austria, and then I'll go online to Australia. Barbados, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. After a number of debates around this topic, I have accepted, my country has accepted that we would agree with a title, Sites of Memory Associated with Recent Conflict. We will not accept all sites of memory. This then broadens the time frame immediately. So recent conflict, we accepted that. We accepted the framework of what recent conflict applied to, but all sites of memory completely ignores that framework. And therefore, I think if we can go with all sites of memory associated with recent conflict, we understand where we are referring this debate to. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and this decision.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Austria.
Thank you very much. To fully echo what Barbados just said, we have to stick with the mandate of this group, and that is very clearly sites of memory associated with recent conflict and nothing different. And I think we have to be scrupulously sticking to that. Thank you.
Yes, I'm afraid we're broadening the mandate. France is withdrawing the amendment. So Poland and Australia, do you still need to speak? The amendment is withdrawn. Thank you. All right. So the Poland, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'm so sorry I didn't want, it's not my intention to disrupt this consensus, and we are fully agreeing, and thank you, France, for withdrawing. But in the meantime, I'm just thinking out loud, and I'm sorry for this disruption, but do we really need this sentence in here? Because it's quite obvious that not all of the sites are going to be ever recognized as having outstanding universal value. You need to present a nomination and build a description of the OUV, and etc. This is a general sentence that do we really need it in here? This is just a question for the debate, whether what was the purpose of having this sentence. It's just very general. Yes. And obvious.
I understand what you're saying, but somehow it also links to the convention, where there is an article saying that many sites will never be on the World Heritage List, and it doesn't mean that they do not have value and that they should not be protected. So, yeah. We all know this article of the convention. That is, it's important to remind everybody that not everything goes on the.
In the case of the reminding ourselves what this convention is about, and I already know very well the provisions of the convention, but in my point of view, maybe it wasn't that necessary, but if you all agree that it is necessary to remind ourselves, that I'm very fine with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Poland. Austria, would you wish
Thank
to?
you. I totally agree with your interpretation. I think it is necessary. It reflects very much what we discussed. Just a editorial reminder, what Alessandro Balsamo said, I take it that you will clean up the text, that it fully conforms with sites of memory associated with, because
Yes.
here, yeah. Thank you
Yes,
very much.
please. Let them do it right away, actually. All right. Thank you so much. Can we, Romania, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to clarify, I think, which will be the order in the final text of these two paragraphs, because as they are split right now, the first part of the paragraph is sounds more like a preambular part, not a decision paragraph. All the others are recognizes, decides, and the first paragraph just starts with further recalling. So that's what I call for clarification. Thank you.
Recognizing, please. Then you're right. Thank you for. Then we will move them together and they stick as preambular, both of them. Thank you so much. All right. Can I hammer this? No. Cambodia, you have the floor. Helen? Can you hear us? You're muted. Cambodia, can you hear us? Okay. Can you
Hello?
hear us?
Yes, I can hear you
please.
now. I couldn't unmute.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can see you.
Okay.
You have the floor.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry to intervene at this dernier moment that you are lifting your gavel. I tend to agree with Poland that this sentence is not quite needed. If it is needed, then I think it should be more generalized. It should say, as with all other sites, because singling out sites of memory associated with recent conflict, it seems to give a strange emphasis to me that why should we be saying they are very special? I think the whole point of our debate is that they're not very special and they should be treated the same as others. So may I propose either to remove the sentence altogether, or to say, as with every other kind of site, the sites of memories, etc.
Okay, this may be a compromise proposal. Maybe that would satisfy those who would have wanted to remove the sentence completely. I'm not going to open a debate on this one. No. It's not going to happen. Anybody, do you agree that with the proposal of Cambodia, generalizing this so everybody's accepting? Could we put the proposal of Cambodia on the screen, please? All right, and Franz, you had something else to say. Okay, you have the floor.
Oui, c'est uniquement dans le.
Yes, thank you. It is only for the first paragraph. I think that the French translation is exceptional rather than remarquable. Thank you. Yes, indeed.
Voilà. So, South Africa, you have the floor, sir.
I don't want to spoil the flow, Chair. It's just those who are better English speakers. Is it as with any other or as with all other sites?
I think it's as with all other sites.
Thanks.
Although it's not my mother tongue, but maybe I stand corrected by somebody whose English is better. Romania, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you. Just a small amendment. Do we really need the word further? Can we just say recalling that at the very beginning of the paragraph.
If we don't have recalling before, this is the kind of cleaning up we do anyway, don't worry, you're absolutely right. Up, can I hammer it now? Thank you, adopted. Following text, following article. The following one is a new proposal by Japan. Yes, Barbados, you have the floor, madam.
Just simply, I do agree in general with the statement offered by Japan, but in this context, and let us be very clear, we are talking about inscriptions of sites associated with recent conflict should serve the peace building mission. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So I open the floor on this paragraph. Serbia, you have the floor, madam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We support this amendment.
Thank you.
Japan.
Yes, as amended by Barbados. Is it okay with you? Yes, okay. Well, then the question is, Ethiopia, you have the floor, sir. Online.
Yes, online. Good morning to all. Hope you can hear me. This is just to support the proposal by Japan. For us, we strongly believe that sites associated with recent conflict should serve for the purpose of peace and to reconcile peoples. We should not lose sight of this fundamental objective. So we fully support and endorse this proposal. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Anyone else online? No, in the room, Norway. You have the floor.
Again, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a smaller detail, inscription of sites of memory
Yes.
associated. Thank you.
Thank you. Morocco, you have the floor, sir.
Merci, Madame la
Thank you, Madam Chair. I simply wanted to strongly support the Japanese amendment. I think that it is extremely relevant. Thank you. Thank you, France. Also, we support the amendment, but we believe that in fact it could be brought further up at the top of this section. Thank you.
I don't see anybody objecting to this proposal. I have the request online from the Republic of Korea. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam. We fully support this new paragraph, but we would like to propose that we replace the agreement with dialogue. Emphasize the importance of an agreement rather than agreement. We prefer dialogue. Thank you, Madam.
So the importance of dialogue among the concerned states. So I would like to know whether this amendment is acceptable. I will, of course, start with those who presented this paragraph, and I'll start by giving the floor to Japan. You have the floor.
Thank you. No, we can't do it. This is entirely different. Here we want to emphasize the importance of agreement. Dialogue is simply a method. What is important, if you change it to dialogue, it looks as if, okay, it doesn't matter whether we have an agreement or not, but only dialogue. If there's no agreement, that's fine. That you will give that impression. No, I cannot agree.
Thank you. I'll give the floor to Turkey. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Madam. I think dialogue doesn't work for us as well. Maybe instead of dialogue, we can say, and agreement has some kind of a legal meaning. Maybe we can say consensus. Find the middle way.
Okay, so now we have another proposal. I will give the floor to Ethiopia. You have the floor, Ambassador.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We also feel this is a fundamental issue for us. We feel that agreement is essential, and we fully support the original proposal. Maybe we can say the importance of an agreement through dialogue, but the fundamental point is the need for an agreement. Again, we are here, and the process that we are undertaking should not make us lose sight of the fact that the aim is to reconcile people. We remember to reconcile and to consolidate peace. That is the aim. And for that purpose, agreement is important, is essential. Agreement through dialogue maybe can be something acceptable. So, but the fundamental agreement, the fundamental idea is that there has to be an agreement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will give the floor to all the rest of the list, but just a kind reminder, the word agreement here doesn't mean that the agreement is compulsory for inscription. Don't forget that in the end, the committee is free to do what it wants. So to state that an agreement is something important is not something that is going to impede on the inscription in the end if an agreement is not reached. Because if you read the rest of our text, you will see that it would not be impede on inscription in the end. But I'm of course in your hand. I will give the floor to Serbia. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We fully propose the Japanese proposal that insistence on agreement. This is something which is essential. We find also very helpful the proposal made by Ethiopia, agreement through dialogue. So we might go with that as well. Thank you. But agreement is essential. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Israel. You have the floor.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to fully support the proposal by an ambassador of Ethiopia, and of course, what was said by the Japanese representative. There should be a word agreement in this, and this is absolutely clear. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So I see support building up for the Ethiopian proposal. I would like, before giving the floor to South Africa, to see whether this proposal is acceptable to Japan. You have the floor, sir.
Yes, we support the proposal by Ethiopia, agreement through dialogue.
Thank you. Then before continuing with my list, if you'd allow me, I would like to ask the Republic of Korea if this is acceptable.
Yes, we can accept, but with the understanding, as Madam Chair mentioned, the agreement should not serve as a kind of veto power or impeding, absolutely impeding capacity of the contesting party. In that understanding, we can accept that.
Okay, so could we clean the text with the proposal by Ethiopia, accepted by both Japan and Korea? I would like to know now whether South Africa and India still want to take the floor. South Africa withdraws. India, do you still want to take the floor? The hand is still up, so I will give you the floor, sir. You have the floor.
Yes, Madam Chair, a very small sort of correction or amendment, whatever you may say. If we say recognizing that the inscription of sites of memory associated with research should serve as the peace building mission of UNESCO, and further emphasizing the importance of an agreement through dialogue. So just adding that little bit, perhaps maybe a little bit better. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, sir. Okay, paragraph as on the screen now is acceptable to all of you online and in the room. I see no objections. It's adopted. We move to the following paragraph, which is a new paragraph presented by the Republic of Korea. And here I have to make my own comment before I open the floor. I am uncomfortable with the second part of this paragraph because it takes us outside of our mandate. It's really exactly as the debate we had before with the colleague of France. our mandate is really restricted to sites of conflict associated with sites of memory associated with recent conflict. This drafting takes us beyond our mandate. I would like to give the floor to the Republic of Korea and then see whether anybody wishes to comment. Ambassador, would you like to take the floor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, this paragraph is intended to re-emphasize the basic premise of the guiding principles. These guiding principles, which are reflected through our debate, are drawn from the UNESCO Constitution and the World Heritage Convention and the guiding principles. So we think it should be commonly applicable to all the nominations. I mean, we'd like to emphasize these guiding principles, commonly applicable ones. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ambassador. It's very clear. As I repeat, the first part of the paragraph, I think would cause problems to no one. Second part, however, I think is something for the committee to decide in the future. It goes beyond our mandate, but I am in the hands of the room. It's not for me to take the final decision on this. Austria, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. With all due respect to the Republic of Korea, and I thank them for their explanation, but I honestly feel the whole paragraph is not really necessary. For me, it's a bit of a backpedaling. It's all very clear that guiding principles of an open working group can never supersede the UNESCO Constitution, the Convention, and the operational guidelines. You know, it's saying like, and we recognize that the sky sometimes is blue. I honestly feel it seems there's a paddling or some inbuilt caveat as though these principles are not compatible. I honestly don't feel really it's necessary. I wouldn't go as far as saying I feel uncomfortable, but I tell you that I'm not fully comfortable with it. If it's an absolute red line, all right. But I don't see the necessity, and I totally agree with what you said on the second. I think we go beyond, way beyond. So I would rather prefer that we delete the whole paragraph.
Okay, we have a proposal of deletion by Austria. I now give the floor to Japan. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I fully support the proposal by the Austria.
I now give the floor online to Ethiopia, to be followed by France. Ethiopia, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you said, we are perfectly comfortable with the first part of the proposed amendment by the Republic of Korea. I think it doesn't harm to state that the guiding principles have to be consistent and compatible with our fundamental texts and the operational guidelines. Goes without saying. That is what we've been arguing, and that has been also the premise of our debates here. So that part should stay. The second part is problematic in two ways. On a procedural level, where, as you stated, we are here impeding on the prerogatives of the committee. And two, we are here also introducing notions on a substantive level with which we are not comfortable. So basically, saying here that multiple narratives are going to be
okay, we're losing you, but we got the gist of the intervention.
Sorry, yes.
Yes,
so
we
on
lost
the second part. Okay.
Yes,
okay.
yes. Okay, clear. France to be followed by Serbia. France, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I do support the proposal made by Austria. Thank you. So to remove the entire paragraph.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We support what you said and what Ethiopia said, and we also support Austria's proposal. So thank you.
Ooh la la,
And
okay.
French.
All
So
right.
just the second part is the one that we
Yes.
would like to.
I'll
take
go
out.
then step
But
by
also
step.
we see the merit in deleting the paragraph as a whole, as
All right.
Austria proposed. Thank you.
So we're in a situation now where it's clear that no one supports the second part. So I think the second part should be deleted. And now some would prefer to delete the whole paragraph, and others think there is merit in keeping the first part of the paragraph. So I'll put the question this way. Anybody feels very strongly against keeping the first part of this paragraph in the text? The Republic of Korea, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are trying to join the consensus in the room. So we agree we can delete the second part, but I hope the Madam Chair can include that in the report. There is a member state. These principles think these principles should be applicable to all the nominations. And then I hope we can maintain the first part of the paragraph. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ambassador. I have put the question and I see no one objecting or feeling strongly against keeping the first part of the paragraph, knowing that we will see where is the best place to put it. So I'm going to hammer the first part of the, yes, Turkey, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, we are not against the first part, but it needs some kind of improvement or adjustment, definitely.
So please go ahead if you can.
I mean, first of all, maybe we can, I mean, we are mentioning the guiding principles, but we have not adopted the guiding principles in the text yet. Maybe we can say that having in mind that the guiding principles adopted with this decision.
No, you don't have to go into this because in the end, nothing is adopted until we adopted things. So don't worry. So this is going to be part of a decision adopted in the end. If you prefer, like it's technically speaking, it's all between brackets. This decision will not be fully adopted until we finish all the rest. You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, but also in the text, we are mentioning the guiding principles, but we don't know the guiding principles for the time being.
We have finished the guiding principles. We have adopted all of them. The only thing we have left is the, really fail to see your problem here.
The thing is,
you would prefer that we remove the mention to the guidelines here?
No, we can keep the guidelines, but consistent and compatible. When we say compatible, if we go back to when we go back to the contestation, if a new language is adopted over there, the guiding principles will not be compatible with the existing guidelines for the time being.
Would you accept that we put just consistent?
Yes.
Okay, consistent. So is the paragraph acceptable to all now? France, you have the floor, madame.
Non, pas complètement, puisque le terme
not fully, because for me, what I believe intended to, it doesn't make sense. In French, it must be consistent or it can't be consistent, but is intended to be consistent, I think is not very clear. I'm not sure whether this also applies to the English side, but I know that in French, we can't really say intended to be consistent. It has to be is or is not. And also where I agree with Turkey is that here, indeed, we talk about the operational guideline. No, sorry, we speak about the guiding principles, but we've never mentioned them before in the previous paragraphs. So if this paragraph is adopted as such, then it will have to be put afterwards when we start talking about the guiding principles. And I think that's what Turkey wanted to say. We speak all of a sudden about guiding principles, but we don't even know where they are at the moment, and we may start mentioning them also from the next paragraph. Okay, so we are going, first we are going to agree on the content of this, and we could say, look, having in mind that the guiding principle must be consistent. Are you happy with must be consistent? Is it content? Are you happy with this? Austria, you have the floor.
Just as a legal or problem that I have with must, we try to avoid in such text must, shall, and all the rest of it. So intended or intended is in the English version is good. I'm not a native speaker in French. I understand what our French colleagues said, that sont censés seems a bit strange, but doivent, if the translation is must, it wouldn't work in English. So I don't know, maybe in French.
But don't you think that the guiding principle must be consistent with the convention and the?
But this is exactly what I'm saying. Are we saying that they are not? Do we have? I mean, this is exactly why I didn't feel comfortable with the whole thing in the first place. I would accept are intended to be consistent because that's our intention. But must is very prescriptive, and again, I mean. Are we not in agreement that there is somehow consistent?
I get your point, but hold on. I have a whole list of.
And what does it mean if there is disagreement on it? Is it then everything null and void? What we discussed? There is really a problem with that in the sense that it's very, very ambivalent what we're trying to say with that paragraph.
Thank you. I'll continue with the list. Japan, you have the floor.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's creating some sort of confusion and so my preference maybe we really don't really necessary this paragraph. I think it's obvious and everything must be consistent with the treaties and conventions, and we don't have to create any confusions in this kind of the basic issues. Thank you very much.
We can solve the confusion very easily if we say that having in mind that the guiding principles are consistent within where acceptable. Le français. C'est bon.
France too? Yeah, okay.
Adopted. All right, thank you so much. Now we move to the following paragraph. Encourages state parties in collaboration with the World Heritage Center to seek building capacities to address potential skill gaps in terms of sites of memory. Point of order. Yes, France, please, you have the floor, madame.
Pardon, excusez-moi, merci. Vous avez, excusez-moi, adopté le.
Sorry, but you adopted the paragraph, but we do agree that it's to place it somewhere else. Yes, in somewhere else lower in the text, as you mentioned. Yes. And Alexandro is taking note of all this.
All right. Now, for this paragraph, we also received many proposals of amendments from Australia, France, Lithuania, Norway, and that's it. Just trying to help. Having looked at all these paragraphs, I think the most complete is the French one. What is missing from it is something that that is included in the Norwegian proposal that I didn't quite understand. The part on future interpretation, really, I don't get what you mean. So if you would allow me, I would like to start by giving the floor to Norway to clear up this so that everybody understands what we're talking about. Norway, would you tell us, please, what you mean by your last sentence?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and sorry for confusing you. I think what I meant was that it is important to have programs of interpretation in the future management of the site which also encourage the collaboration. So that's what I meant, I think. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I now open the floor on this paragraph, and Austria, you have the floor, madam, to be followed by South Africa.
I would support your interpretation that we should start our discussion on the basis of the French proposal. I would argue that the Norwegian amendment is somehow absorbed by addressing the particular challenges. If there's appetite to make that visible, one could say address the particular challenges of sites of memory of recent conflicts or associated with recent conflicts, including future interpretation or the interpretation of these sites, something of the sort, if that is important to Norway.
Thank you, Austria. I give the floor to South Africa. You have the floor, sir.
No, thanks. I think this is a very important paragraph that France has proposed also and which Norway touches on. I don't have a formulation, but would want it to deal with capacity building also for advisory bodies, because that's one challenge. In implementing this, in assessing this, are we sure that they have the requisite capacity to now assess the sites of? So I'll propose, if France doesn't, and propose to the floor that perhaps this paragraph should address a capacity building across all the stakeholders, including advisory bodies. Thanks. I don't have any language to propose now.
I have a request from Barbados. Maybe Barbados can come up with the language. You have the floor, madam. To be followed by Ethiopia.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I appreciate very much the French proposal. Nevertheless, it does miss, I think, an essential element of the previous proposal. I would still, notwithstanding the language they have included to strengthen the competence, I would still insist on the need to address the skills gaps and to strengthen the competence of state parties, managers, communities. And I do agree with the previous speaker that we do, it should acknowledge and include the advisory bodies as well. So they too suffer skills gaps and need to strengthen competence.
So we can simply add them to state parties and managers. We can add advisory bodies.
Yes, I think that would be appropriate.
Maybe I'll give some time to South Africa to see the drafting and see whether the way it was addressed is okay. In the meantime, I would like to give the floor to Ethiopia. You have the floor, sir.
Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
We fully agree with what was said by Barbados and suggested by South Africa. Skills gaps are important. Advisory bodies should be included. So as it is now stated, is perfectly fine for us. Thank you.
Thank you. So, dear colleagues, the text as it is now on the screen. Turkey, you have the floor, to be followed by Poland.
Just to be consistent in the text, instead of local populations, maybe in the English version, we can say local communities. This was a matter of discussion before, and we use local communities in the English text, as you might recall.
No, but we're not going to start this debate again.
Yeah.
We looked at the convention, and it is in French local populations.
Yeah, but in the English version here, it says local populations, so we should change the English version to local communities. We did this in
yes,
yeah.
But it's in our texts. It is not the same in English and French.
Yeah, I agree with you, but the text on the screen, it states local population in the English version.
Okay. Yes, thank you. I was just looking at the French. Thank you. Okay, Poland, you have the floor, madam.
Thank you very much, madam. And just for the clearance of the text, whether do we we should stay with the particular challenges of the sites of memory associated with recent conflicts, not sites of memory of recent conflicts or associated with recent conflicts. So there is no other type of sites. We need to stick to the term that we used in the previous paragraphs. So in this case, I would say that we need to clear it up. At the end.
Okay, it's sites of memories associated with recent conflict, right?
But it was different. Now it's okay.
Thank you. Thank you for pointing this out. I continue with the list. Morocco, you have the floor, Ambassador.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Moi, j'ai un problème avec le texte.
Thank you, Madam President. I have an issue with the French text. It says to address the skills gap and strengthen the competence. And this is, well, it says twice competence. And I believe it should have a different formulation. So then we could maybe to address skills gap, but you may be right, but I think France is going to save us. I'm also going to give them the floor. Yes, I totally agree. I think we can remove les manques in French if we already have combler, and so just say pour combler et renforcer les compétences. Then about advisory bodies, I would place them or at the very end or at the very beginning, because generally state parties are linked to managers and communities, so they should go together. And so I would start the list with the consultative bodies, or I would place it at the very end of the list. So yes, so we can start with state parties, managers, communities, local communities, and then finish with advisory bodies.
Okay. Is it acceptable to you? Oh, no, sorry. I have Lithuania. Yes, Lithuania. My last speaker, and then I would really like to conclude.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In general, we are fine with the overall amendment by France because it includes other amendments, including the one proposed by Lithuania. However, you can see that 3 delegations are proposing inclusion of preparing nominations. I don't know if that is supposed to be covered by the wording, the particular challenges, but we were hearing that it's quite a common problem. So I was thinking whether it would be possible to say in the end, including the preparation of nominations and the future interpretations of these sites. What do you feel?
But does the World Heritage Center get involved in preparing nominations? Isn't there some kind of conflict of interest here? I don't know. I'm in your hands. Would you like to speak?
No, it says encourages the state parties to seek to address the skill gaps. It does not say that the World Heritage Center. I mean, there are 3 proposals, as you can see on the screen. 3 delegations are proposing inclusion of preparing nominations. If you think,
where would you like to put it?
Where I suggested what is written now in the French amendment, including the preparation of nominations and the future interpretation.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. I'll now give the floor to Romania. You have the floor, sir.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I see that the sentence is still not very clear, and states parties are mentioned twice in the text. Therefore, I suggest that we replace the second reference to states parties by Okay, I'll read the sentence from the beginning. Encourages states parties in collaboration with the World Heritage Center to seek to address the skill gaps and to strengthen the national competences of managers, communities, and local communities. Because otherwise, it reads, encourages state parties to strengthen the competences of state parties, which doesn't make sense. But then that wouldn't apply to advisory bodies, says the chair.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I don't want to reopen the debate, but maybe if we read the whole paragraph, it's something that we can see that now the state parties, in cooperation with the World Heritage Center, will basically address the skill gaps also of the advisory bodies. I will propose rather to switch the place where advisory bodies is now, to put it with World Heritage Center and the advisory bodies, and to take it out from there, because normally in our system, the advisory bodies are those that help also addressing these kind of gaps.
Yeah, but in this case, what I saw from the room is that they have their own gaps to fill, right?
But
so where you put it, it's saying that they will help us address our skill gaps, but this doesn't deal with their skill gaps. So we're not there yet. And Kuwait, you have asked for the floor? No. Grenada, you have the floor, madam.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Would it be possible to encourage state parties and advisory bodies in collaboration to strengthen? But in this case, we are requesting the advisory bodies to strengthen the capacity in their own.
But the problem is that I don't think that the World Heritage Center is going to help the advisory body in
collaboration.
Yeah. We have a request for the floor from ICROM. Maybe Mr. King can help us. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. As you know, capacity building is one of ICROM's specialties. So, I mean, I think the issue here, and actually, I thank the suggestion to move the advisory bodies up next to the World Heritage Center, because I think we do work together with the World Heritage Center and with states parties to address skills gaps and to build capacity. So I do think it makes sense for the advisory bodies to be up in the first part of that sentence. But having said that, to be clear, certainly within the advisory bodies, we're always trying to build our, we're always trying to continue to build our capacities, and we can certainly do that in collaboration with others, with states parties, with the World Heritage Center. So I don't necessarily see a problem. I mean, we do capacity building activities all the time for ourselves. I mean, we have workshops and networking meetings and things like that to build our own capacity. So I don't see why, in a way, it couldn't be both sides. So encouraging states parties in collaboration with the World Heritage Center and the advisory bodies to seek to address skills gaps and to strengthen national competencies of states parties, because states parties also work to build their own capacities. So again, having that on both sides of the equation, I think still makes sense. So national capacities of states parties, managers, communities, local populations, and advisory bodies. Why not? I mean, all of us need to always be building our capacities. After 25 years, I'm still trying to build my own
Absolutely. So you're suggesting that
keep advisory bodies in the front and also
in the beginning and in the end.
Yes, but also to include states parties on both sides, because in fact, states parties are helping to build, but they're also having capacity built. It works both. It works in both sides.
Thank you so much. I now give the floor to Kuwait, to be followed by South Africa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was going to take the floor before, but your explanations, is that in this case, especially in this case, we are emphasizing that the advisory body need to do their capacity building. So I suggest is not to put it with the World Heritage Center. So when the people's read it in the future, know that our emphasis is to capacity building for the advisory body, very specifically. Yes, likewise in the screen. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. South Africa, you have the floor, sir.
I don't want to spoil what my brother from Kuwait has put it. I think there's a capacity building for advisory bodies and we are clear for that. So we don't want to argue that. I think he's put it. I agree with what he said. Thanks.
So can we have a clean copy of this paragraph because I don't understand it anymore? Excuse me? Oh, ICOMOS is in the room too. You have the floor, madam.
Okay, merci beaucoup. Oui, à propos de cette
Thank you very much. As regards this wording, we fully agree that there is a need for capacity building within advisory bodies, in particular ICOMOS. But I think that the wording as it stands may indicate that state parties are responsible for capacity building among advisory bodies, and perhaps this doesn't really make sense.
I give the floor to Barbados to be followed by France.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Notwithstanding the concerns expressed by the previous speaker, I see no conflict. This particular paragraph invites various parties, including states, parties, World Heritage Center, and I would argue, as did Mr. King from ICROM, and advisory bodies, because they tend to work in conjunction with each other when they're addressing this matter, to seek to address skills gaps and to strengthen national competencies of state parties, managers, communities, and local communities. And we could say, and also advisory bodies, which negates the emphasis on nationality, even though they're the advisory bodies tend to have national committees and what have you. But nevertheless, the point is that it's encouraging these groups to work to address these skills. It does not ascribe responsibility. It merely encourages them to seek to address these, these
Thank
gaps.
you, Barbados. France, you have the floor, madam.
Merci, peut-être pour trouver une rédaction.
Thank you. Now, in order to have a clear wording, perhaps we could say encourages state parties and advisory bodies in collaboration with the World Heritage Center to seek to address their skill gaps and strengthen the national competences of state parties, managers, communities, and local communities, and then remove the second reference to advisory bodies. Would you like me to repeat that? So, encourages state parties and advisory bodies in collaboration with the World Heritage Center to seek to address their skill gaps and to strengthen, and we'd remove the national competences of state parties, as well as the skills of managers, communities, and local communities, and then we'd remove and also advisory bodies.
I think this covers it. I think this covers it really. Can I get your agreement on, anybody objects to the text as it is on the floor, on the screen now? Australia, do you object with the text as proposed by, well, then Norway wants the floor. Then I'll give the floor first to Australia because they asked for it before. Australia, you have the floor. And I really
thank you,
want to
Madam.
close the debate. Please, this is not the most important paragraph in this DR. I want to move forward. Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was just in relation to the word competences. I think that should be competencies. In English, that doesn't make sense. So, I think the proposal was possibly to remove that text, but otherwise we're happy with the construction of this. Thank you.
Thank you. You're absolutely right. Thank you for noting that. Any other? Norway doesn't want to speak anymore. I guess you wanted to make the same comment. All right. Can I hammer this paragraph? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. We move to the following one. Where are we now? So now the paragraph. The original reads, decides that nominations of sites associated with recent conflict submitted by 1st of February 2022 and considered complete, for which the evaluation process is currently on hold, will be processed under the existing procedures and criteria, and further decide to suspend the application of paragraph 61 of the operational guidelines for these nominations. This is the original. So now we have received amendments from Australia, France, Norway, and Uganda, who's basically asking that we split the paragraph, starting the second one with resolves to suspend the application, etc. So, dear colleagues, I think if you would bear with me, the proposal by Uganda to split is not a bad proposal if you can accept it. Now, in the first part, we do need to, as usual, add the word of memory. Word, as we did before, this is a word that is missing to complete the title, as we have to put it everywhere in the text. And that's about it from me. Now it's up to you. So I give the floor to Belgium. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to immediately reassure you, I do not have a proposal for an amendment, and we do not disagree with the text, but I have a very practical question for the Secretariat. For those files that have already been submitted and reported or suspended or whatever temporary decision has been taken, how will they be put back on the agenda? Will this happen automatically, or will member states have to, or states parties have to request for it to be put back on the agenda? Maybe Secretariat could clarify this. Thank you.
Before I give the floor to the Secretariat, I would like to say that in our previous sessions, we had already reached a consensus that has been acted in the report, that for these sites, what we are adopting as guiding principles and everything that goes with it is not applicable. We had decided that we do not change the games of the rules of the games in the middle of the game, and that these sites will go to evaluation under the existing text and procedure. So this was already agreed, and I hope that you will all understand that we cannot come back on this consensus now that we are acting it in the decision. That is what I wanted to remind you of. And had to go back. I read again the previous reports, and this is absolutely maybe one of the things we adopted in the earliest, we agreed on in the earliest meetings. So now I give the floor to the Secretariat.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you very much, Belgium, for the important questions, because indeed, yes, this is something that we have to keep in mind. First of all, this is totally up to the committee to decide in its own decision how to, let's say, reactivate this nomination, because as you know, even the fact that there was this suspension of their evaluation, it's a special decision of the committee. It's not anywhere in the provision of the operational guidelines, and as it is not in the provision of the operational guideline how to reactivate this nomination. So it will have to be up to the decision of the committee to decide how this will be reactivated. Just I wish to recall that this will need a full evaluation process. So given the current situation, we have to see how it goes.
Thank you. Next speaker is Austria, to be followed by Kuwait. Austria, you have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Just to reinforce what you've just said in terms of an agreement that I also felt that we had all agreed that we will not apply these, or don't expect the committee to apply these principles to those files that are in the pipeline, as it's been considered unfair, as you said, no change of the rules mid-game. So I would also hope that with this agreement, we could move on other fronts. So that's quite important. So Austria would not be in a position to accept going back or invalidating that
Thank
consensus.
you. I now give the floor.
May I just ask one question?
Oh, sorry, you're not.
I have
done.
no problem with, the suspension of application of 61 and 122. It's just a question of whether we could decide that. It's, this is, I think, a prerogative of a committee. Wouldn't it be better to recommend to the committee or something of the sort?
Yes.
Don't want to be too
Yes, but
overly.
don't forget that the decision as we're drafting it is what the committee is going to adopt. So it is the committee that will be adopting this.
Oh, sorry.
not us.
Then, all right. Thank you
Yes.
very much.
I had Kuwait first. Yes, Kuwait.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the clarification, because for once I thought I have issues with my recent memories. So yes, just to emphasize that, we agreed that not to change the games in the middle of the game. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I now give the floor to Australia Online, to be followed by France.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And to reiterate previous comments, we also agree not to change the rules of the game. And we had proposed the removal of the
secrétariat réponde à la France sur le nombre de sites qui sont qui font sujet de moratoire.
Are covered by the moratorium.
Thank you, Chair. And merci, la France.
Thank you, France.
Well, I'm going to speak in English, maybe to be crystal clear with everyone. We have to also name we have 6 nominations in this category so far. So the funerary and memorial sites of First World War, Western Front from Belgium and France, the landing beaches, Normandy, 1944, sorry, France, Brancusi Monumental Ensemble of Tagugu, Romania, the genocide memorial sites, Nyamata, Murambi, Gisosi, and Bisesero, Rwanda, human rights, liberation, reconciliation, Nelson Mandela legacy sites in South Africa, and the ESMA Museum and Sites of Memory, former clandestine center of detention, torture, and extermination by Argentina.
Thank you very much. I continue with the list of speakers, and my next speaker is Argentina, to be followed by Japan.
Thank you, Mr.
You have the
Chair.
floor, madam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to say that Argentina supports what you have said, the Chair, and we please ask not to reopen the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. And I give the floor now to Serbia. You have the floor, madam. Oh, sorry, Japan. Japan to be followed by Serbia.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for not forgetting us. And I fully support your suggestions or proposals, and I go along with these decisions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now Serbia to be followed by Norway. Serbia, you have the floor.
Thank you. We also propose your suggestion because that was agreed. Thank you.
Thank you. Norway, you have the floor, madam.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving Norway the floor again. I would like just to make a comment on the paragraph 61, because we will, of course, not go against consensus, but I think it's important to acknowledge that the paragraph is an important tool to reach the goals of the global strategy. And by suspending it, we might not achieve that, but it's important as well for us to avoid any kind of possible precedence on that, and if possible, we would like to have that noted in the minutes. My second point was made in connection to what France just supported, and that was the addition that we made concerning the nominations that are already presented, and that they will do, the States Party will do their utmost to adopt and implement the guiding principles. I hope that will still be part of what we will decide. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like us then now to focus on this paragraph, the Article 61. I get your point. Does it deal with the problem if we put the relevant parts of paragraph 61? Because we only mean the cap. The cap is the problem, not the rest of it. So we could just put the relevant parts of paragraph 61. France, you have the floor.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. On paragraph 61, I don't believe this would be a precedent, if I remember rightly. For periodic reports, second cycle, when they are adopted, when you finish a cycle, there always is a decision that states that for those sites that had announced a major extension in periodic reports, they're not included in the quota, and paragraph 61 therefore is suspended. The application of paragraph 61 is suspended in that decision. So we've done it before, and I don't see what the problem is. Paragraph 61 is quite clear. It's out of quota and not within the limit of 35. So you would prefer to remove? No, I think we have to keep 61. So you would like me to withdraw my amendment? Well, in that case, I withdraw my amendment.
And that would settle it, I think. So the paragraph, can we clean up the paragraph? Now, France withdrew its amendment, but you have an amendment by Norway encouraging state parties whose dossiers have already been tabled, whether they wish to still implement the guiding principles. And of course, this could be after the inscription, especially when it concerns the education and reconciliation facets of it. Anybody has any objection to this encouragement, knowing that we are absolutely firm that this is really the decision of the state party, because some may wish to withdraw them, others want to keep them and not to do anything, just apply the actual rules, but others could want to continue working maybe after even inscription on the reconciliation facet or on the education facet. Any objections? Could we clean up the paragraph so that everybody sees what I'm asking support for?